Hi and welcome to this DCP web tutorial. In today's tutorial, I'm going to be giving you a beginner's guide to using LibreOffice 7 Writer. Okay, so before we start the tutorial, if you haven't already installed LibreOffice 7, I'll put a link in the YouTube description showing you how to install that. Today we're going to focus on LibreOffice Writer, which is very similar to Microsoft Word. But if you'd like to learn more about spreadsheets, I'll also put a link in the YouTube description for a tutorial on LibreOffice 7 Calc. So let's go ahead and open up LibreOffice Writer, and I've got the latest version installed. And when we load up the application, we get a blank document, right? And this document is very similar to how Microsoft Word might work or Google Docs. It's a similar logic, right? You're writing content into this document in text-based format mainly, and we just want to format out a document. Now, the type of content that you put in here is really down to you. So in my case, I typically use this in my business. So more than likely, we'll create some sort of document that would, today in this example, we use typically within a business, but you can use this at university. So if you want to write up a report on some coursework or something like that, you can follow this same tutorial to build structure. Now, my advice is that you create something called a master document, and the master document would really contain all of the formatting and all of the styles that you're going to use for your text. Because when we go to create subsequent documents later, for example, if I sent a quote to one of my customers and I did a job for them, and then 6 months later they asked me to do another job, it would be nice if I present the information for the new job in a similar way that I presented it for the old job, right? The one that I finished. So if we have a master document that we can follow, it doesn't matter what type of content we're creating, there's going to be consistency. Same way if you're doing college work or university work, you want a consistent document for when you're writing up your content for your coursework, for example, right? Now, the first thing we can really look at is fixing up this interface. Now, as default, this is how the interface looks like on LibreOffice, and I find this quite messy, and it's not the best option, to be fair. So what we can do is go to View, go to our go to our user interface here, user interface, and inside user interface, as default, it's set as standard toolbar, and I prefer to leave it as tabbed toolbars, little tabs across the top. This is very much how Microsoft Word works at the moment. So I'm going to click apply to all, or you can just apply it to Writer. If you click apply to all, it will also affect the LibreOffice Calc as well, and any other sort of applications that run underneath LibreOffice. I'm going to click apply to all, and what you'll see is the interface changes at the top here. So now as default, we have these tabs, and these tabs contain different settings underneath each tab, and it's just a little bit easier to work with rather than just having loads of crazy tabs or loads of content and loads of drop down menus to try and filter through, right? So try and use the tab option. I think it's better for you. If for any reason you want to switch back, you can see there's no option to do that now. So what you need to do is click here, and on this little tab on the side here, you'll see the options here now, and you can go back to user interface and you can switch it back to standard toolbar, or leave it on tabbed, or go and experiment with some of these, right? There's like compact ones, there's sidebar, and there's all these other options. But as right now, we're just going to leave it as tabbed and click apply to all and close it. So I was speaking about creating some sort of master document. So really what we want to do is go to file, and we want to go to save as, and we're going to go to my desktop. I've got a folder on my desktop ready here. I'm just going to rename this document master document -01. So this will be our first master document, and in future documents that we create, we'll copy this master one, and we'll always retain our master document and use that as the base formatting for our work, right? So I was explaining that I run, well, I probably didn't explain, but I run a website design company. I write a lot of specifications for clients. So when someone comes to me and says, I want you to build me a website, I have to write documentation on it. Can't just explain that over the phone. Normally I write a good solid document, explain what is what, and then send that to the customer as a PDF file. So let's try and create something like that, but then using this knowledge that we gain today, you can create any type of document. It doesn't have to be for website design. Like I said, it can be for university, college, it can be for your own business, your own internal documentation for your own company. Now, the first thing we need to really sort out is what I call the headers. So if you're familiar with there's a little option down here, by the way. There's a little tab here, and if you click it, it will expand, and you'll see a few different other options in here. And we want to click on styles at the moment. Styles right here. It's got like a little A and a paintbrush in there. So these are going to be all the different styles for this document. And we're not going to go through all of them, but I'm going to go through the common ones, like the heading tags. And normally I set the heading 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Or even just the first 4 is probably more than sufficient, unless you're going to drill down in your document quite in depth, right? So it really depends on what you need, but for now I think we'll just do like 5 headings. So I'm going to type in heading 1 here, and when I type in heading 1, I'm going to select that piece of content. So I'm just going to left click, hold down the left mouse button and select that piece of content, and I'm going to click on heading 1 here. Just double click it, and when I double left click it, I am able to now right click on it and go to modify, because I think that heading 1 is quite large, and you can see inside of it is set to like 130%. I don't really want it to be that big. I want to set it to like 100% here, and I want to change the font. I'm going to change it to Arial. So I'm going to type in Arial. It's going to be bold and it's going to be 100. I'm going to click apply, and you'll see the heading will now be a little bit smaller. I think that's a bit better than having this sort of massive heading, for your first sort of heading on your document. You can make it smaller if you want than that, but I think that's actually an okay size. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK, and then we're going to copy this text heading 1 and we're going to paste it down and call it heading 2, and we're going to select that text there and we're going to go to heading 2 and double click it, and that's going to change again. So we're going to right click on here, go to modify, and inside modify we're going to type in Arial again, Arial, and it's going to be bold, and the last one was set to 100, so we're going to set this to 90 and click apply, and then OK. So we expect our heading 2s to be slightly smaller than the heading 1s, right? And we're just going to do 4 headings. We're not going to do 5. We'll do 4 for now. Normally that's more than enough, so we'll select this here. We'll go to heading 3, double click it, right click, go to modify, and we'll type in Arial here. That's going to be our font. And you can choose any font that you want. You don't have to use Arial, but try and keep a consistent font in your documents. It's going to be bold. The last one was set to 90, so this one we're going to set to 80 here, and click apply, and then click OK, and then we'll select this text here. We'll hit enter, paste it, we'll call it heading 4, and we'll select this, double click on heading 4, right click on it, go to modify, and then in here we're going to type in Arial, and let's type it in correctly, Arial, and it's going to be bold, not bold and italic, just bold. And the last one was set to 80, so we're going to set this one to 70, click apply, and then click OK. So we've got 4 headings here. Why do we do this? It means that whenever we want to format documents later, so when we want to start formatting our content, we've got all of the headings set up here, like 1, 2, 3, and then we've got 4 here, right? And we can quickly click on these to set the headings for our document later. This is quite important. So I'm going to hit the enter key, and I'm going to write in here default text, and right now it's set to this serif 12 point. So I'm going to select this text, and here you can see the text body down here, text body. I'm going to double click that, I'm going to right click on it and go to modify, and we're going to set this to Arial, and it's going to be regular, and we're going to set it to 10 point and click apply, and then click OK. So now we've got the default text, so it doesn't matter what we type into our document, we can select heading 1, 2, 3, 4 and the default text very quickly to format all of our text. We can format our text very quickly and efficiently. So if we go ahead and click save, we've got the base of our written content, the formatting styles of our written content done for us, and whenever we open up this document and reuse it again, and especially if we create 2 different documents, maybe for 2 different clients, the styles and the design are going to be consistent. So if you create 2 different pieces of coursework, maybe one for one subject, one for another, it will be nice if your documentation for each one of those pieces of coursework is consistent, right? So that's kind of the objective here. So I know it takes a little bit of time, but it's worth doing, trust me. Okay, so typically when I send a document to one of my customers, it's going to have my logo and it's going to have my address and maybe my telephone number in the header section. So as default, when we create a header section, it's going to be applied to all pages. Now there is ways in LibreOffice to apply a header only to the first page, and then all pages that follow, they're called subsequent pages, and they wouldn't contain the header. But I'm going to show you that in a separate tutorial. We're going to try and keep this one as simple as possible. So I'll make a separate tutorial showing you how to create custom headers for the first page, and then following pages won't inherit that custom header. They'll have their own unique header, the following pages, right? But for now, we just create one single header style for all of our pages. So when we click up here, you can see there's a gap up here. That's allocated to the header. So when we left click up here, when we left click, if we left click once, you'll see there's header default. And if you click on this blue button here, click on it once, you'll get this little place where you can start to type in some text, right? Some text information. So what I want to do is, I really want to add my logo and I want to add my address, but at the same time, I want to kind of separate the header content from the footer content, right? Or the body down below it. So to do that, what we'll do is insert a table. So we're going to insert a table, and we're just going to insert a single table, just one row, one column. So we've got this block in here, just one row, one column. And what we want to do is go to the home here, and we're going to right align it because we want to type our address on the right hand side. So I'm just going to type here, I'm just going to make up an address. Just going to make up this address. So you can type in your address here. Let's spell this correctly, S-T-R-A-T, Stratford, London, E15 4DG. And then I'm going to put in a telephone number here. I'm just going to make up this phone number. And this would be my address and my telephone number. Now the font in here is the default font style. So it's this default text here. And I want to just create some little custom option in here to just reduce the size of it. We don't have to set a default style for the header because we're really going to type in text in here once anyway. So right now it's set to Arial, and I want to set it to, let's say, a slightly smaller size, maybe 9 point will be good, right? I want it to be slightly smaller in the header. Now we want to insert the logo. So I'm going to left click inside of this cell, this table. This is a cell, and I'm going to explain a bit more about tables later. But we're going to left click inside here. We're going to go to insert. Now whenever you insert something, I want to add my logo. So first of all, let's minimize this. Let's open up this folder. Let's create a new folder in here, and let's call it assets, right? So this is where we're saving our master document. We're going to have assets in here, and we might save many assets, but for now we're just going to have logo. And I'm going to drag and drop my logo into here. So here's my DCP logo, right? And we want to insert that logo into the header. So it's important that you click in the header when you insert that image. So we'll click inside the header, inside of this table. We're going to go to insert. So whenever you're using software, try and think about what you're trying to do. So you're trying to insert something, and these tabs can get a bit confusing. So imagine you want to insert an image. So you click on the insert tab, and then you look for image in here, and you can see image right here. So let's click on that. And then we can go ahead and click my logo and click open. And now that logo has been inserted into the header, but you can see it's massive, right? So I'm going to click this handle and drag it in. And you need to click in the bottom corner to drag it. Don't click from the sides, because if you click from the sides, it's going to squash the logo. You don't want that. So I'm just going to drag this logo in and make it smaller. You can see there's a big white gap at the top and there's a big white gap at the bottom. This is actually how the image was designed, for example. So really I use this image on social media. You can imagine if there's a circle drawn around it, then it will fit nicely on social media profile. So we want to crop this image. Now normally you do that in Photoshop or GIMP software, but fortunately you can click on the image inside of LibreOffice, and you can go to the cropping tool here, crop. So when we click on the picture, it automatically goes over to a tab called images, where you can change the contrast, you can change the colors, you can do lots of different things in here, right? Just go and experiment with these, because I'm not going to go through every single option inside of here, but for now we're going to crop. So we're going to click crop, and you'll get these handles. So let's drag this handle up here, and you may not need to do this with your logo. Your logo might have very little white spacing. We call this white spacing around the edge, but I think I need my logo to have cropping so that we can fit it in there nicely. So I'm going to click on the rotate tool. I'm going to click on it once, and I'm going to click on it twice. And that brings us back to our default state logo. And now we can drag it into position, and we can resize it so that it fits nicely inside of this header up here. So somewhere around this position should be good. If we left click outside, and then we can click back on the logo and we can resize it. Now one thing I must stress, is very important that you insert the logo when you've clicked in the header. If you insert it in the body and you try and drag it to the header, it's going to cause you all sorts of problems. So don't do that, yeah? Now let's go ahead and save this. So let's go to file, and we can go to print preview here. And when we click print preview, it's not the best, is it, right? We've got this border around the logo and our address, and we don't really want the whole border around everything. We just want the one right below this one here to separate our header from our content below. And we've got quite a big gap at the top here. Can you see it's quite big? It's like a 2 centimeter gap. So let's fix that as well. So let's close this. And when we want to manipulate a document, you should really left click in the body for the moment. And we want to get rid of this large gap here. Not all of it, but get rid of some of it. So we're going to go to layout because we're going to change the layout of the document. So when we click layout, we've got options to change the margin. You can select some of these default margins like narrow, wide, and so forth. But we just want to reduce the top here. We're going to set it to 1. And I'm also going to do that for the bottom, and that will kind of make sense a little bit later. We're going to set that to 1 as well. So you can see the gap is being reduced, and I think it just looks better when the gap is not so large at the top. Now let's click back into this header, and I'm going to hover my mouse on the left hand side, and when I hover I'll get this little black arrow. Can you see it? So I don't want to go too close to the table, just hover on the outside of the table, and that allows you to left click to select that table. So that cell, right? So that's all been selected now. And when you click that and you select it, lo and behold, by default, LibreOffice gives you the table tab, so you can format the table. So you're in the table tab right now, and we want to change the border. So we're going to click border, and we're going to say no borders, right? And then we're going to click on it again, and we're going to say bottom border only. Select this one. And then when we left click outside, although you can see a thin grey line around, that's just for your own reference, right? It's not for when you print this document, or if you save it as a PDF, you won't see that grey border. So we can test that by saving this, going to file and going to print preview again, and now we just see this nice line that separates the content below. And that's what I wanted. I just wanted a simple line to separate our logo and our address from the content that's going to be sitting below. Now I'm not sure. Let's just see. I think that's actually going to be okay. Yeah, I think that's going to be fine. So we've got not a massive amount of content done in our document, but we've got structure now. So whenever we go to create another document, we never have to put our logo in, we never have to put our address in. It's already done for us. And whenever we copy this document and reuse it, we've got all of our default style set up. We've got our logo and our address. So this just helps us to replicate this document later. I'm going to show you that. We can copy it many times to make many other documents. So whether that's for coursework, you can put your name up here if you want. You can put your address details or what subject it's for, or whatever you want in this header. And it doesn't have to be like a logo in the center. You could put maybe a picture of yourself, for example, or whatever you want, right? It's your choice entirely. So let's just sort out the footer. I'm going to scroll right down to the bottom. I'm going to click in this bottom section here, and I'm going to click the blue button to insert a footer, and we get this section here now where we can insert a footer. And I'm going to go ahead and insert another table. So it's just going to be a single row table like this, and I'm going to click inside. I'm going to go back to home, and this time I want to center. I'm going to align to the center, and I'm going to type in my website address. Now you might type in whatever you like here, but I'm going to put my website address. But I'm going to click here, hit the backspace key, and put another lowercase w. As default, when you start typing, the first letter will become a capital letter. I'm going to click here and hit the space bar. On the right hand side of this website address, I'm going to hit the space bar, and that makes it a URL link, and I'm going to hit the backspace key to get rid of that extra space. So now when anyone clicks on this in a PDF file, it's going to load up my website. And I'm going to click on this table. So I'm going to, like we did before in the header, I'm going to left click on just on the outside, and that takes us back to the table tab, and we're going to go to our borders and shading, set it to none, and then this time we're going to set it to top border, top one, right? And now we have, let's just save this, and let's just go back to file, print preview. Now we've got a line to separate our footer, and we've got a line to separate our header. Okay, so hopefully you're learning quite a few things here. We've created headers, we've created default text styles, and we've created this footer section. Now, whether you're using LibreOffice or whether you're using Microsoft Word or Excel or LibreOffice Calc, or if you're doing things on websites, there's some common shortcut keys that you should really try and learn. So I'm going to write them down here, and I'm going to hopefully you try and memorize these. These are quite important ones to remember, right? And you probably know most of these anyway, so but just in case you don't know them, I'm going to write them down for you quickly. So there's Control key plus C, right? And this equals copy. So we can copy content by pressing Control and C after we selected it. So if we hold down the Shift key and press the Home key, whenever we are at the end of a sentence, we can hold down the shift key and press the home key on our keyboard, and that will select everything before where our cursor was placed. Now we can actually press Control C, actually press this command, and then we can left click here and hit the enter key and press Control V. So Control V is to paste, right? So we can say that this one is to paste. And then we can hit the enter key and press Control V again because it's still saved in memory. And we can do Control A. And Control A is to select all. So let's try that. I'm going to press Control A, and that selects everything in the document. I can press Control C, then Control V. Select all, copy and paste. These are really common keyword or shortcut keys that we use quite often when we're formatting documents, whether it's spreadsheets, whatever it is, even website work, wherever you are, even if you're filling out a form online, these are shortcut keys you should try and learn. Maybe you already know them, maybe I'm stating the obvious, but it's worth learning these few shortcuts. Another one that I use quite often is I'm going to press Control V to paste this, and it's going to be Control Z or Control Z if you're in America, and this is to undo last step, right? And then Control plus Y equals redo last step. So let's just demonstrate these quickly. So I'm just going to type in some text here. I'm going to hold down, and remember, let's add a couple more in here actually. Let's spell this correctly. So then you can press Control key, CTRL plus the home key to select content backwards, and then another one that I use quite often is Control and the end key to select content forwards. So if you learn these shortcuts, you can cut and paste and move data around your document very, very fast. So for example, I'm just going to copy this text. So I'm going to select it with my mouse, or I can click here and hold down the shift key and press home, right? Control home, or I can click on the beginning of it and press the shift key and press end, and that will select all of that data on that particular line of text. I can press Control C to copy it, hit the space bar, and then hit the space bar a few times, right? So I'm just going to paste it a few times. So if I click here, hold down the shift key, press home, that selects everything there. If I'm at the beginning and I want to select everything the other way, I'll hold down the shift key and press end. And then I can press Control C to copy it. So I press Control C to copy, and then I'm already at the end, so I can just left click, hit the enter, and then press Control V to paste it. Right? So these steps, these things you should really try and learn. So I can press Control Z to undo, or Control Z. So let's press Control Z. That undoes the last thing I've done. If I press it again one more time, it's going to move up to this line here. If I press it one more time, it's going to remove the last steps that I've done. Right? So if you ever make a mistake and you want to undo something, press Control Z, and you can press it multiple times because in this software, it's memorized everything you've done for the last few steps. Right, there is a limit to it, but I think it's like 100 sort of limit. So here we can see the word backwards. Now if I press Control Y, I'm going to redo everything that I've just undone. So if I press Control Y, it's going to do forwards, right that there. It's going to start pasting all of the text, all the actions that I've done before, until I get to the very last action that I performed, right? So these are definitely some shortcuts that you should 100% learn. They're going to help you a lot when you create documents. You can use these shortcuts are pretty much universal. You can use them in Word, you can use them in Excel, you can use them on websites, you can use it in the web browser, you can use it everywhere, right? Literally, those are the default shortcuts. And there are many more, but these are like the most useful ones that you're going to use on a regular basis. So let's go ahead and save this document. I know I kind of went off in a direction there, but honestly, if you can learn these and master these shortcuts, I even use them in Blender when I do 3D animation. I use them in Photoshop. I use them absolutely everywhere. So these are very important. Some of these may not work in Photoshop, like Control Z and Control Y. So you need to like hold down the Shift key and use special shortcuts for these stuff. But in Word and Excel and websites and stuff like that, most of these shortcuts should work perfectly fine. So let's think about how I would typically structure a document. So I'm going to click here and I'm going to hit the Enter key. And as default, whenever I write a document, the first thing I want to do is write some sort of title and then put the address on this side. So how can we have a title on the left hand side, but the not address, a date on the right hand side? How do we do that? We can click here, we can go to insert, and we're going to insert a table that has two rows like this. And in this left hand side, we're going to type in, let's say, I'm going to just make this up, right? I'm going to kind of in a way that I would normally create a document. So I'm going to just say DCP web custom. Let's just say DCP custom web design projects, right? And I'm going to hold down the shift key and press home. Holding down the shift key, pressing home allows me to select that. So I didn't have to do it with my mouse. I can do all these actions with just keyboard shortcuts. And I'm going to double click on heading 1. So that will be the name, the title of this document. And we don't need this cell to be so large because it's just going to contain a date. So I'm going to type in date. I'm going to put a colon in there. And we're going to type in what is today's date? It's the 17th of the 10th, 2021. And I'm going to left click outside. And I'm going to save this. And when I go to File, Print Preview, we're going to see a problem here. We've got the nice title there. We've got our date written there. But it would be nice if that date was kind of centered inside of this cell. And it would be better if we don't have the borders. So let's close this. Let's left click on the outside of this table. We should know how to do this now. We're going to go to our tables and borders and set it to none. We don't want any borders here. We can also click inside of this cell and we've got options to center, right? We've got options to like vertically align it inside of this cell. So if we center it out here, it will kind of be aligned with this text, although it's a different size. We might even select this and we can press Control B to bold. So that's another shortcut that I use quite often. Control plus B, Control plus B equals bold text, right? So if we select this and press Control B, it will make it bold. That's a nice shortcut as well. You've got Control I to make it italic, I believe. Control and I, that will make it italic. You've got Control and U, that will use the underline, right? So there's a few other shortcuts, but don't really use them that often. So we've got a title in here, and I'm going to create this document typically for a website project. So let's do that, and we'll learn some other steps like bullet lists and creating tables and stuff as we go along, because I use them a lot when I create documentation. This is a good example of creating structure inside of a document. So really this heading 1, 2, 3, 4 and this default text, we don't actually need this in the document, but I'm going to kind of leave it here along with this copy and paste and stuff. And what I want to do is really create a new I want all of this content to be on its own page. So I'm going to click here and go to insert, or you can actually do this from the home page, but learn it from insert first. You go to insert, page break here, page break. If you go to home, there's also the page break option here. It's the same thing. So you can click that and that will just move all of that other content to its own page. And now we can just start off with our default page. You might choose to leave this here for reference, for example, right? And then just delete it when you save your document to send it to the customer. So we've got the name of the project here, and I'm going to write in here project type, and I'm going to select this, and at the moment it's heading 1. We don't want it to be heading 1, we want it to be heading 2. So we're going to double click this. Let's see, we should be able to click that heading 2 here, right? Double click it here, left click, and that will set it to heading 2 style. And underneath that we're going to have default text. So project type will be custom DCP CMS system or WordPress website design. So that's the type of project, and normally I'll put this like maybe on a bullet. We'll leave it, actually we'll go to the bullets a little bit later, and then underneath I might write something like responsive website design for optimum mobile compatibility. A lot of typos in there, so let's just right click. Nice thing is you can just right click and fix spelling errors. So responsive, and that's just to do with like mobile optimization to make sure the website is mobile compatible. I'm going to type in domain name here, and I'm going to hit the enter key, and normally I put this on a bullet, so I'm going to hit the bullet list here. This is the bullet list, so this is the first example of using bullet list, and we're going to just type in my website address here and then hit the space bar, and that will be the domain name. But we should really make this maybe a heading. We could leave it as a heading 2 or a heading 3. It's up to us. But I think like these are the main elements of this project, right? So we just leave it as a heading 2 for now. Or we could set it to a heading 3. That would be a little bit smaller. But I think heading 2 is fine. And we're going to click here, hit the backspace key and hit the enter key once, and we're going to hit it twice, because then that will get rid of the bullet list. And then we're going to write in here website structure. Now in your document you might be writing other titles and writing other content. We're just learning the features of this software, so you know how to create titles, you know how to create bullet lists and so forth. So we can select this text and we're going to make actually that one a heading 3. And inside of here we're going to create another bullet list, and we're going to write home. So we're going to have a home page, we're going to have an about us page, we're going to have a services page, and we're going to have a blog, and we're going to have a contact us page. So this might be the structure for a typical website: home, about us, services, blog, and contact us. But in some examples, especially when I work on web projects, services is broken down into its own sub pages. So if I move my mouse cursor to this position, hit the enter key, it's going to give me a blank bullet, and in that blank bullet I might write website design, right? And then, but I want this to be indented now because it's a part of the services. So I'm going to use the indentation tool here. So it's this one here, increase indent. So we're going to hit it once, and it's going to change the bullet style and indent it once. We're going to hit enter, and we're going to type in maybe graphic design and internet marketing. Right, so these are the core services that I provide in my own business. Now under website design, I'm going to hit enter. So I'm going to click here and hit enter once to make another bullet, and I'm going to indent it one more time. I'm going to write e-commerce web design. We're going to do business web design, and we'll type in lead generation web design. So these are 3 sub-services, and then graphic design has its own sub-services, and internet marketing has it as well. And we can see that by just opening up the web browser. So I'm really just thinking about what I've built on my own website, to be fair. And if we look at it, we've got home, about, services, website design, and it has more than like 3 services underneath. It has a few like WordPress and a few other things, but you can see the structure here, right? Services, website, internet marketing, graphic design. These are the 3 core elements, and then website design has its own sub-services. So does internet marketing and graphic design. In this document, I'm just going to do the one section, right? Of the sub-services, but you get the idea. The idea here is to understand how to do indentation of bullets. So that's what I'm trying to explain. Like you can left align them, you can indent them inwards, and you can indent them outwards. So that's what I'm trying to help you understand. Now, when I create a website for a customer, they may want a specific contact form or a way of someone filling out a form on their website. So let's type in contact form fields, right? And we'll hit the enter key, and I'm going to make this a heading 3. Double click it, that's a heading 3, and we're going to click down here, and this time we want to insert a table. So we're going to go to insert table, and we're going to do 1 row and 3 columns. So we've got 1 row and 3 columns here, and the first row is typically going to be our titles, right, for these columns. So I'm going to type in field name, field type, and then field, let's just call this notes, right, at the end. Now when I get to the end here, I want to be able to add another row below, and there's a few different ways to do this, but there's really 2 primary ways to do this. If I want to insert a row below, I can click this one here, insert row below, or I can insert a row above. So if I click this one, it inserts a row directly above. If I press Ctrl Z or Ctrl Z, remember a shortcut, where is it? Ctrl Z, undo last step. So when I press Ctrl Z, it's going to undo that. If I press row below, it's going to add a row below. But you know, we don't want to have to go up to this navigation to do that. So what we can do is type in this word notes, and that will be the last thing we typed in. And the cursor's on the right hand side of that word, and we can hit the tab key on our keyboard. So just above the caps lock key, you've got your tab key, and if we hit the tab key, it inserts a new row for us. because that's the last action. So here it doesn't know what to do, so it says, well, there's nothing more to push to the side, so I'm going to insert another row below. And then we can hit the tab key, and the tab key allows us to move through the cells, right, in chronological order. So you just click here, hit the tab key, you can see it's gone to this field, and we hit this one, and it goes to this one, then it will go down to this one, and then finally this one, each time I hit the tab key. So in field name, or in fact, let's left click here on the first row, so we're going to highlight that first row. Let's go to home and let's make them bold, because these are titles. We want them to be titles for the data that sits underneath it. Now, what do you normally see when you go to a website and you've got to fill out a form to contact someone? You're going to see the name. You're going to ask for the person's name. You're going to hit the tab key, and this is going to be a text field, and it's going to be a required field. So we want the person's name, then we want their contact number, and that will also be a text field, and that's also going to be required. But rather than keep on typing in text field, I can click here, select this text field, and select these two cells, text field and required field. We're going to press Ctrl C to copy. We're going to left click here and press Ctrl V to paste it. So that means we don't have to retype it. So remember, the shortcuts are very powerful if we use them in the right way. Why do you want to keep typing the same thing over and over when you know that you need that data? Or you know that you need that information. So we hit the tab key, and we want an email address, and we just press Ctrl V and it pastes in that data. We hit the tab key and the tab key one more time, and this time we want type of service, and in here it's going to be a drop down menu, and then we might create a little bullet list here. Now, normally I'll send this to my developers afterwards, and they'll look at this table and they'll understand what's going on. So if you're doing a document for your university work or college work, or if you're documenting something for your business, if you build structure in tables, people can learn and understand data a bit more accurately, right? If you're collecting data for an experiment or something like that, or you're documenting something for one of your customers, then this is a nice way to present that information in a structured format. So in here, I want to say type of website. So I really want to ask the question, if a customer's on my website, I want to ask them that question, what type of service or what type of website do you want? And they want online shop. They may just want a business website. They may want lead generation website, or they just don't know. So not sure. They don't know, so they can select one of these options. If they click it, they fill in all their details, and they tell me want an online shop, at least when I pick up the phone and speak to that person, I know that they're looking for an e-commerce store. If they just want a general business website, if they want to do lead generation, or maybe they're not sure and they want some advice, so they can call me and I'll advise them what's their best option. Underneath that, I just want to write message, and this will be a text area. It's not going to be a text field, it will be a text area, because I want to give them enough space to write lots of information. I'm going to press the tab key, and I'm going to hit the backspace key once, and I'm going to hit it twice to get rid of the bullets on this particular cell. And then we want to write in here, this is basically not a required field, so I normally just leave this blank. It means that it's not required, right? Or we can even write here, not a required field. So let's save this. Let's go and have a look at this as a real life example. So if we go back to my website, and if we click like tell us about your project, you scroll right down, here's the name, here's the email, here's the telephone number, here's the type of website, there's the question that we asked. Remember, it's a drop down menu, so I wrote drop down menu here. I didn't write text field, I wrote drop down menu. These are all text fields. This is a text area where they can type in content and then they can submit it. So I wrote text area. So you can understand that when I'm working on client work, I need to structure out these fields, and some of these tables might be very big. They might have many steps to them. Sometimes form processing is quite complex, and it may have like step 1, fill out these fields, and underneath I write step 2, fill out these fields, step 3, fill out these fields, and then submit the data, right? But the idea here is that we can build structure. So if we move our mouse cursor below the table and hit the enter key, that just gives us a little bit of space away from that table, and we can press Ctrl and S to save. Let's actually put that as a shortcut key. That's a very important one as well. Ctrl plus S equals save document. That's like, that shortcut is like gold dust, right? Every time you do some work on your document, if you're going to go away, make a cup of tea, come back, or do something else, always press Ctrl S, always save your work. Then you're going to have less problem. Now, what do we have? We have a logo, we have an address, we have a date, we have a main title for our document, we have project type, domains, we've created bullet list, we've got the fields here and all of the formatting for this table. So we've learned quite a lot, but I'm going to go ahead and I don't really want to write anything in this bottom section. So how do we move to a new page? We go to insert new page, right? So we go to insert page break, or you can go to home and just click this button again like before. So when we insert a page, we get a brand new blank page, and the other content sits on the very last page because we're inserting a new page, right? So we get a blank new page here. And what do we want to do next? So let's look at some problems that you might face when creating other types of content. So let's just say that we want to create a bullet list, not a bullet list, let's say we want to create a number list first, right? So let's just say that we want to write a title, let's call it web design priority, right? But let's call it website design project priority. So whenever I'm working on a project, maybe certain tasks need to be put in priority order. So if I select this text, I'm going to make it a heading 3, double click it, click underneath, and rather than using bullets, I'm going to use number list here. So I'll click on this one here, and the first thing that I want to do is a logo design. So I want to create a logo for some business, and then underneath that we need to do domain registration, and then underneath that we want to do a website template design, and then we want to set up web server hosting, and then development work, testing, and then finally final launch, right, of the website. So we can say like these are steps and they're put in priority order. The reason why I've done that is I've got like a bullet list, right? Oh, sorry, a number list. So I was just illustrating a number list. But if I go to logo design, hit enter key, and if I say logo design, send to client, let's say send logo examples to client, right? So that's the first step of logo design. So I'll create some examples, let's send it to the client, but we don't want that sitting at point 2. It's a part of point 1, so we want to indent it. So we indent it and it'll be 1 and then 1 here, but I don't really like that. So what I want to do is click on this drop down menu next to it, and we can click on this first option, and then instead of it just saying 1 here, it says 1.1. So this is like step 1, this is step 1.1, and then step 1.2, maybe like get feedback, and then step 1.3, make logo revisions, right, based on the client feedback. And then you can have many steps indented in like this. So I just want to show you that we can do bullet lists, but we can also do number lists. And when we create our number list, just like we can indent bullets, we can also indent number lists. If we select all of these numbers, select them all, and then click in here, you can change the style. So you can have like A, B, C. You can have it like that if you want. You can click on here and it has brackets around it. There's all these different styles of bullet numbers, and it's down to you whatever one works best for you. You can have like a Roman numerical sort of numbers and an ABC here as well. I prefer to just stick with the first option. That's kind of what works for me, but whatever works for you is good for you, right? So we hit the enter key and it gives us a number 8. If we hit the enter key one more time, it removes us from the bullet list. If you want to create a number 8, just click back here and hit enter. If you don't want the numbers, then just hit enter one more time, and then it goes back to default text again. So let's go ahead and click save and go to file and print preview, and now we can see we're building some good structure in our document. Now sometimes maybe if you're writing essay work for university or just general work for your business, maybe you want to insert text content but in 2 separate columns, especially if you're writing maybe if you're writing a PDF book or something like this. Maybe you want like 2 columns, right, or even 3 columns of text information. To do that, we need to insert a table, and that table will contain 2 separate columns, right, where we can paste in our text. But before we do that, I want to show you a problem. Well, let's see if there is a problem first. Let's open up the web browser. I'm going to go to my website, scroll to the very top, and I'm going to select this block of text and I'm going to copy it. So remember, I'm copying this information from an external source. It's not, when I'm not typing it in, I'm copying it from my website, or I'm copying it from an email or for some other location. If I minimize this and paste it in, you can kind of see like this box appears around this text. It's not quite right. So we can select all of this, and you can see the font is like massive, right, compared to the default style. Because when we copy and paste from another location, we're inheriting the information from where we've cut it from. So although you don't see formatting on this page, you don't see bold, italic, or the font style or the font size, if I were to, just as an example, copy just this piece of text there, copy it. If I press Control and U, then Control and F, and then Control and V, I can see there's classes in here. There's CSS in here that determines how this text is represented in this page. And when I select such text, copy it, and paste it into here, you can see it's kind of, the software is trying to drag in some of that data, some of that information. So there's two ways to fix that. In theory, we should be able to go to home and click clean here, and when we click clean, it actually just sets it back to its default style. Can you see clean? It sets it back to its default style, but we've actually got this like border around this text, and it just ain't right, is it? It shouldn't be there. So here's my advice. Whenever you cut and paste in from an external document, whether it's an email, whether it's another Word document, whether it's another LibreOffice Writer document, whether it's a website page, doesn't really matter. Go to that page, select the text. Let's try and refresh that. Let's select this text. Let's select only the text here, select it, press Ctrl C to copy or right click copy, and then what I do is I open up Notepad. So there's a bit of software on Windows, I'm sure there's something like this on a Mac, just a really basic text editor, and you open up Notepad and you paste your text into here. And when you paste text into Notepad, Notepad ignores all formatting. It doesn't care about formatting. All it cares about is the raw text information. And if you were to copy it from here, so select it all, press Ctrl C to copy, go back to your document and paste it in, you're going to have none of those formatting issues. The only thing we've got to do is really close down this gap. That's a bit of advice for you when you're cutting and pasting from external sources. So I cut and pasted this document or this piece of text in here for a reason. If I go to the left hand side of this, the word at, left click here, hit the enter key, that's going to add a row above, and I want to go ahead and insert a table, but it's going to be 2, or you can even do 3 if you want, but I'm going to insert two columns. I'm going to select this piece of text here, press Control X. So remember, I don't think we've got Control X on here. That's a really useful shortcut as well. Ctrl plus X equals cut. When we want to cut content, we use Control and X. So if I select this text, press Control and X, it's not copying it, it's cutting it, and then I can click in here and press Control V to paste it. Then I can select this piece of text and press Control X, and then press Control V in here to paste that as well. So we've got these two paragraphs of text sitting side by side, and then I can click here and press the delete key to move this text up a bit, like underneath it, yeah? And I can press Control S to save. And I can go back to, I can left click on the side to select this table, and then we can go to our, where is it gone? We can click here, and then we can go to no borders, set no borders, and that should be pretty good, right? Now we've got 2 columns of data and another paragraph sitting right underneath it. So this is how we can format content to have 2 separate paragraphs but in the same block like this. This is how I do it. Maybe there's a better way to do it. Possibly I'll have to go and research that a little bit, but this is how I normally do it in Word and other sort of documents. So we've got print preview. Now we can see the 2 paragraphs of text here and the text sitting nicely underneath. So that's how I format 2 columns of data, and that column could have stretched all the way down the page. It could have been the whole document in 2 columns. Why you would do that, I'm not quite sure, but it could have been like that, right? Or this side could have contained some bullet lists, could have contained a picture if you want. So let's talk about inserting pictures. So I'm going to click here, and I'm going to go back to this notepad file, and I'm going to copy this content again one more time, because I'm going to use it as a reference point just for some placeholder text. And I'm going to hit the enter key, and I'm going to paste it in again, and let's just get rid of this blank space, and let's just go to my website quickly. I want to grab some images. I'm going to go to my portfolio. Let's just drag this to one side, and we'll minimize this. Let's close this. We don't need this notepad file. We'll open up this folder, and inside this folder we've got assets. We've got a logo in here. I'm just going to write down website design. And let's just drag a few pictures in here that we can use. So let's click on this one. I'm going to drag and drop it in here. Let's do Layla decorators. So these are from some new projects that I worked on recently, web ones. Alva PC is like a nice project as well, and maybe we'll do window shading. So let's take these 4 projects. So let's just say in my document I was talking about website design. Here I'm kind of talking about it anyway. If I hit the enter key at the very last paragraph here, hit the enter key once, I'm going to go to insert, and I want to insert an image, right? Like before, insert image. And I'm going to click, let's go back to assets, let's go to website, and let's take any one of these. Let's say this window shadings and click open. Let's see. So really what's happened is pushed it, because it couldn't fit it in that space, it's kind of pushed it down a row or down into the next page. So if we resize this, as we resize it, we should be able to get this content back up the top. So let's just resize it smaller. Let's go to the top here, click here underneath. Let's try and do that. Let's click here and hit the backspace key. So it doesn't seem to want to let us do that. Really I want that content sitting underneath, so let's click here and press Control X, cut it. Let's see if we can get this back at the top here. That's interesting. Really I want it sitting underneath the table here, but when I inserted that image it pushed it to a new page. So this might be some sort of issue within LibreOffice. So remember we've got our good old trusty friend Control Z. So let's do Control Z, and let's get this content back to the top here. So just press Control Z until we can get that content back up here, and we can hit the enter key. And let's just copy this paragraph for now and paste it here. And I'm going to try and insert the image and move it up. Let's try that first. Let's insert image, and let's select that same one. Let's insert it, and let's resize it now. Let's just make it smaller. Let's see if we can drag it up here and drag it. So we can drag it this way, and maybe we can insert it on the side here like this, or maybe we'll insert it just for the second paragraph here like this, right, like there. Right, so we've got this block of text underneath, and here is the cursor right here right now, and I'm going to hit the enter key so it goes to a new line. And maybe we can take this text and paste it right underneath, and I'm going to hit the enter key one more time and paste it again. Just put in placeholder text in here so you can see the image aligned over on this side. So when we click on this image, we can see there's an option here called optimum, right? And we can do parallel, and we can do none. If we select none, then it won't wrap the text won't wrap around it. If we click parallel, then it sits, we can actually have the text like sitting in between the paragraphs like this, like in between. We don't really want that, right? And we can do optimum, and then optimum will never place text on the right hand side. It will always try and get the text to sit on the left or the right hand side the best it can, right? So really optimum is probably the best option for when you're doing like text alignment like this with an image next to it. So that's how we can insert an image. And you can turn off like text wrapping here as well. You can turn it off and on, or you can click on text wrapping and you can set the settings in here as well. So I'll leave you to go and experiment. There's quite a lot of settings to play around in here, but you know, in general I just wanted to place an image on this side over here. Now really when I click on this image, it would be nice if it went to the web page where the website project is located. Imagine we're talking about a website project to do with this one's actually to do with like window shadings, for example, like in your house shadings. So when I click on this image, I want it to go to the website page. So let's open up the web browser. Let's go to that project. It's called window shadings here. You can see the project here. Let's click on it, and we could either send the customer directly to the website that I've created, or we could send them to the portfolio work. This might be a blog post on your website. This might be some point of reference to some content for for your coursework, for example. So you've got a picture in here and you want to link to wherever you got that picture from, or it's a picture of Einstein and you want to link to the Wikipedia page, for example. So you go to the website, you click on the URL, you right click, you copy, you minimize, you click on the picture, then you go to insert. We want to insert a hyperlink here. You click that and then you paste in the link and you click OK. And now when we hover over this image, it shows that there's a link. It's telling us that we can click on the link. And normally I would never send this type of document to the customer. I'm going to convert it into a PDF and then they can click on the link inside the PDF. Yeah. And let's just say underneath I was writing about some website projects that I worked on here, and at the very bottom I would say you can view more projects in my website portfolio, and hit the full stop. And then I'm going to hold down the shift key and the control key, and when I hold down shift and control and use the arrow key, I can select a whole word. And then if I hold down shift and arrow key, left arrow key, I can select 2 whole words. So that's another shortcut. Holding down the shift key and the arrow key and using the left arrow and the right arrow allows us to select whole words at the same time. So if I click on this side, if I hold down shift key or if I hold down the control key, the shift key, and use the right arrow, I can select many words to the right. Or if I hold down the shift, I'm always holding down the shift and control key, and just use the left and right arrows for the amount of words that you want to select. So let's write that shortcut down. That's a really good one. I like to use that a lot. Control plus shift and then plus left arrow. What am I doing here? Left arrow or right arrow, used for selecting words in the document. Yeah, that's what I use it for. So if I go up here, I want to select website portfolio. There's 2 ways to do that. I can either use my mouse and select it, which is not the easiest way to do that. Typically I want to avoid using the mouse as much as possible. I want to use the keyboard shortcut key so I don't have to keep going to the mouse. So control shift, hold down the control key, hold down shift key, left arrow twice, that selects that word or those words. Go to the website, and we can use the tab key, the alt key and the tab key to bounce between different applications. Yeah, alt key and tab key, but that's not really a shortcut for LibreOffice. That's a shortcut for Windows in general. Alt and tab key allows us to bounce between 2 different applications. I can click portfolio, click here, right click, copy, press alt key and tab key, then I can bounce back to the website. This text is already selected, so I'll go to insert, hyperlink. I should be able to right click. You can't right click insert hyperlink, so we go to insert hyperlink, paste it, click OK, and now that becomes a link. When we click on it, it will take me through to my portfolio. You can hold down the control key and left click on links inside your document to open them and test them. But like I said, we'll save this as a PDF file, and then when the customer clicks on these links, they will open as well. So what we can do is go to File, and let's just go to Save, and let's just make a PDF file just so that we can just see those links working and test these links quickly. So I'm going to go to let's see, export directly as PDF. So let's click here, and we can just click Save, and then we can minimize this and go back to our root folder, and we've got a PDF file here now. If we open that PDF, you can see our nice logo, our text, our address, everything's selectable in here with the mouse. And we can click on this DCP web and it will open up my website. We can scroll down here, we can click on this one, and that will also it should also open up my website. Let's try it. It doesn't want to respond. Let's give it a second. Let's see if we can get this to work. Okay, it took a second to load up, but normally when you click on it, it's pretty responsive. Let's click it. Sometimes, you know, what can I say? Sometimes it works. It should work every time, but this is computers for you. So if we click on this one, it should take me to the portfolio example. If I click on website portfolio, it will take me to my portfolio itself. So the links work, they work fine, just that one just seemed to take a bit of time to load for some reason, but it's fine, it works. We can close all of these tabs, we don't need so many open. So we can see a PDF file. Now the customer typically, I'm not saying that people can't go in and edit these PDF files, it's possible to do that, but most people it's probably beyond their knowledge. And this is how I like to send documentation to my customers in PDF file. So they can't really edit them, but they can read the information. I can sit with my customer and explain all of these things inside this document. There's a nice structured way. It would be nice if this was aligned to the right hand side, right? Let's go and fix that. Let's go to our Word document or our PDF, our Writer document. Let's click on here. Let's go to Home and let's right align it. Then it will sit nicely in line with this text over here. Let's scroll down to the bottom. We've got these paragraphs of text. Let's show you a few other things. Let's show you some things on this home option. So we can select some text. So this is at DCP where we have over 15 years of web development knowledge and experience. I'm going to select that text and I'm going to use the highlighter tool. So I can just click down here. I can highlight that piece of information. Let's make it orange for now. So that just kind of emphasizes that information. Just a bit like the highlighter that you'd use normally if you had a piece of paper, you want to highlight a piece of information. This tool here allows us to do that. We can select other text and click it, and you can highlight blocks of information if you want to emphasize something. So there's two ways to undo this highlight. You can press Ctrl Z 3 times, right? 1, 2, 3. You can press Ctrl Y to redo them. So remember, we're using our shortcuts, undo and redo. Or we can select all of this text and we can click the clean button to remove all of that formatting. We can highlight this same piece of text and we can make it bold by clicking B, or we can press Ctrl and B on our keyboard. Try and remember shortcuts. Ctrl B is nice and easy to remember. Ctrl and B for bold. You've got italic, or you can press Ctrl and I to do italic, and you've got underline, or you can press Ctrl and U to do underline. So remember, holding down the Control key, B for bold, U for italic, so I for italic, and U for underline. And then there's underline with different styles, so you can do like dotted underlines and all these other ones. Typically, I don't use underlines. The reason why I don't use them is they get confused with hyperlinks, because typically hyperlinks will have underlines in them. Can you see that here? You can see that here, and you can see that right up here. So if you've got loads of content that have hyperlinks and you've got written words in there that have underscores, underlined text, then it kind of gets a little bit confusing, possibly. I'm not saying it's true, but possibly. It says at DCP we have over 15 years of web development. That's actually not true. It should say over 17 years, because I've been in business, believe it or not, for 17 years. So what we could do to make this factually correct is we could select this text, and I hold down the Shift and Control key to select that piece of information, and then we could do a strike through. We could say, actually, this is not correct. And maybe I'm writing this document, I want to send it to my designer and say to him, look, get rid of this piece of text and replace it with the text right next to it. So that's maybe somehow I would do it. Or maybe I would highlight it and then write the new piece of information right next to it. Then they can go and update it, right? If I go down here, let's see at the top here. Should we do this here? Let's do it down here. It'll just be easier. So if I type in the 20 and then ND for the 22nd, if I highlight this ND, I can turn it into superscript. Let's see, superscript is this one. Superscript is the right one. This is subscript. So superscript is this one, or Control Shift and P. And if I left click on the side of it, and if I type in November, 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 it's still set as superscript. So I can select that and then click on it one more time, then it goes to normal font. So this is how you can write in dates like 22nd of November 2021, for example, right? And that would, the ND will be the superscript. Subscript I think is normally used in maths equations and also like scientific. So this one here is normally used in maths and scientific. The other thing though, just to show you, is you can type in the 22nd ND or the 20, let's say the 20 ST for first, and then hit the space bar, and LibreOffice kind of understands that you're typing in a date and it will set the superscript for you automatically. Then you can just type in November, November 2021. So, software is a bit intelligent and it's going to understand that you're typing in ST after 21. It's going to treat that as 21st of November 2021 if you type that in. Let's just write in here last completed project as an example, right? Some text. Let's hit the enter key. Let's save this, and let's say that I want to emphasize this in some way. So I could use the what is this, set character spacing, very tight. So you can set the characters. I'll never use this, to be honest. Normal, and then you've got like very loose, so you can like spread out the text. Why you'd want to do that, I'm not sure, so I'm going to leave it as normal. But you know, maybe there's a reason why you want to do that. Maybe for some design or artwork. Remember, you can use these documents to create things like wedding invitations or birthday celebration invitation or something like this. You can use it for different purposes. It doesn't have to be for business, it can be for personal use as well. So after this, already this piece of text here, I want to emphasize it, so we can use the highlight a character tool. So we can click here and it will go orange. We can press Ctrl Z to undo that, and we can change its font color. We might make it red, so we don't have to highlight things with the highlighter tool. We can actually change the color here as well, right? The actual color. If I select this and then click clear formatting, that's going to just set it all back to its default. If I select all of this information here, I can use this tool here, the background color tool, and I can set it to yellow. As default it's yellow right now, but whatever color I pick in here, let's say I pick a green, then all of that block will be highlighted green. You may want to highlight a whole block for a specific reason, just to emphasize it for some reason. I'm going to press Ctrl Z to undo that. Normally I wouldn't use that tool, but sometimes when I'm writing documents and I want to, you know, emphasize something quite specific, or if things are correct and things are wrong, like here for example, I might highlight this and make it red, so that when my designer is looking at it, he just says, okay, that's red, that means there's something wrong, and he'll read 15 years and then he'll write 17 years and he'll go and fix the website, do whatever he needs to do. Let's save this work. We'll leave that there as an example. Underneath here, you've got some common stuff, so you can click here and you can do center align, right align, and block justify. Now, on this piece of text, you won't really see block justify because it's such a small amount of content. But if I were to select this paragraph and the paragraph above and then click block justify, this text would sit right flush up to this image, and then it would also sit right flush to the edge of this document. Personally, I don't like block justify because it adds lots of spaces between content. So if I were to delete some of this, it would add gaps to fill out the full width of the space that it needs to allocate to get it right to the edge. And I just prefer left align. I just think it's easier to read content when it's left align. Entirely your choice. In newspapers, a lot of the time you see block justify used in newspaper content, for example, or maybe in books as well, possibly. So that's most of the tools here. There is one other tool here. It's called the one thing to know actually is the indentation doesn't have to apply only to bullet lists and number lists and bullet lists, right? Number lists and bullet lists. You can actually apply it to paragraphs. So if I click here, I can do an indentation of a whole paragraph. If I wanted to emphasize something or indent it for some specific reason, I can indent it this way. I can indent it twice, 3 times, 4 times, how many times I want, and I can bring it all the way back to the beginning again. The tool right next to it shows us the formatting marks. So when I click this, it just shows us where our page breaks or our carriage returns are. This shows us where we've hit the, you know, where a paragraph's ending or a piece of information is breaking to a new line. You can see where all the blank spaces are and stuff like this. This sometimes helps you with formatting. To be honest, I've never really used it, but it is there if you ever want to use it. Now, let's just say I want to put in a copyright sign here. How do I do that? There's no copyright sign on the keyboard. There's not even a euro sign. And we live in Europe, but there's no euro sign on the keyboard. There is a dollar sign holding down the shift key and pressing number 4. There is a pound sign holding down the shift key and pressing number 3. But what if I want to enter a euro sign? How do I do that? I click up here and there's a tool called special characters. When I click on that, I get the option to put in the yen sign. I've got the copyright sign, and I've got the euro here. So I can click that and that will insert the euro sign. And if I click it one more time, let's go back to it, I can put in a copyright sign, right? Copyright. Sometimes you might want to write a copyright in the footer. If you're writing a document for a book or something like this, you may want to put a copyright in there, for example. Let's get rid of this, we don't really want that. This is our page break, this is insert image. So these little few tools here are kind of like common tools that you might use quite frequently. This is why they've placed them here. Insert a comment. So you can click here, or maybe we can click here, and we can insert a comment. And in here I can write, say something like needs to update the date, or the need to update the number of years to 17. And then I can click outside, we can click on the drop down. It says resolved, resolve thread, delete comment. So there's a few different options in here. So you can mark things as so if this task has been done, you can mark it as resolved. So you can say resolved, you can say unresolved. So imagine if my designer went and did that job, afterwards he could click in here and say it's been resolved. He's done the update on the website. So he went to my website and he went to my home page and he changed it from 15 years to 17 years. He could open up this document and mark it as resolved or unresolved, right? I'm not quite sure about these other, obviously there's like delete comments and format all comments and stuff like this. We won't go too much detail into those other options, but for now it just kind of emphasizes and highlights that is a comment that something needs to be actioned. You can click here to just but minimize this control panel on the side. Sometimes it's nice to minimize it when you're reading these comments, and these comments get pinned permanently, so you can't really like hide them. They're there to really give information, so you want to leave them there, right? But if you want to get rid of it, you can just click on here and say delete comment or delete all comments. If you click delete all comments, I assume it's going to delete more than one. Let's put that to the test. Let's click down here, let's click add comment, and there's 2 comments now. This is a test comment, and if we were to click up here and say delete all comments, it removes all of them. But if we were to click up here and say delete comment, not all comment, delete comment, then it will just delete that one and retain this one. So we can maybe just leave this one up here. If we save this document, go to file and go to convert to PDF file and save it, and we just overwrite the other one. Let's just save it. Let's just minimize this and open it. Let's open up the PDF file. I'm pretty sure those comments don't get put into the PDF file. So if you were to export it, it wouldn't go into the PDF file itself. Okay, let's go back to our document. We can actually close this PDF file for the moment. Let's just close it. These comments are quite distracting, so let's just get rid of them, delete all comments, and then that just allows us to get our header formatting back here as well, so we can see it a bit easier. We're still working on this tab here. We've pretty much been through everything here, all of the content, all of the information. Style preview. Now let's see. What's a bit weird is you should really be able to click on these. You should be able to select some text, click on it, like double click or something to apply that. That's what I assume this should really do, but it doesn't seem to be working from here for some reason. But you can always apply the headers from the side here. So if you double click this, it highlights it here. So I think maybe these are just like previews. Style, it does say style preview, not really selecting the style, and I assume that's what this control panel down the side is for. In Microsoft Word you can actually select them from the header, but in this document I don't think it works, or this software doesn't quite work like that. I think this is just for previewing in the header at the top here, but it's a bit strange that you can't select them from up here, like double click them. You can right click on them, you can update to match style, and you can edit the style itself. You can't really select them from here, which is a bit strange, to be honest. It would make sense you can click here as a shortcut rather than using this one, but it is what it is. I didn't write the software. You know, you can always write to LibreOffice if you like. We can select this and we can set it back to text body, so we can double click and it will be back to its default style here. Okay, so sometimes we want to add page numbers to our documents, right? So we've got this footer section down here. And if we go over to the insert section here, there's quite a few different tools. I'm not going to explain everything in here, but let's at least understand how to add page numbers. So right now we've got the website address in here, and it would be nice if the page number was on the right hand side and the website address was on the left hand side. So right now we have a table and it's one cell, so I'm going to click in here, right click, and I'm going to split the cell, split it. I'm going to click here and I want to split it vertically, right? So I want two separate cells here. side by side. So I'll click OK, and you can see the address or the website address is on the left hand. We've got a space in the right hand. Let's click on this left hand section here, left click, go to home, and we're going to left align it. So the website address sits in the bottom left. We'll click on this cell over here, and we're going to right align it, go to insert, and then we'll go to our field here and select page number. So now we can see there's a page number 2 here, because we've got a page above which will be page 1, and then we've got a page below which will be page 3, and we've got this blank page here. We don't need it, so we can hit the backspace key twice and that will get rid of that blank page. So now we just got 3 pages here, showing you know, the 3 pages of content. We've got a page number in the bottom. Let's just save this and go to file, print preview, and let's just double check it, print preview, and then we can see the page number right down here in the bottom, page 1, 2 and 3, like this. So let's close this. Okay, so if we move over to the next tab, we've looked at a few options in this insert tab. There are quite a few other options in here, like inserting lines and sort of, you know, shapes and stuff like this. This is pretty kind of self-explanatory. You know, if you click on a shape, you can add a shape into your document. This stuff's pretty straightforward in the insert object section here. You've got insert font works. This is where you can kind of do like crazy fonts. You can have like you know, fonts with drop shadows and stuff like that. So if you're doing like a birthday party or a greeting or something like that, you may want to use the font works option to add a little bit of style and design to your artwork or your content. So yeah, I'll leave you to go and experiment with these. Maybe we'll make some specific tutorials on some detailed information, especially like OELE objects. These are for like adding spreadsheets directly within inside of your document. It's a bit beyond the scope of a beginner's tutorial in terms of adding external documents or external functions within this document itself. In the layout, we've already looked at margins, so you can pick some default margins here, but we manipulated the margin here before. The orientation, we can set it to landscape if we want. So we hold down the control key and zoom out. Our page is now in landscape, and we can click here and select portrait, and it'll be back into portrait view as well. And you've got paper size here, so if you want to select a specific paper size that you're printing on A5, for example, you can select paper sizes in here. Here you've got like the number of columns. It says default, we've got 1 column. And if you remember, we actually created a table to generate 2 columns here like this. But you can set your paper to have automatically a specific amount of columns. So if I were to scroll down here and click down here, for example, if I went to layout and set it to 2 column, then there will actually be 2 columns here. You can see there's column 1 and there's a column over here, 2 separate columns. But that can mess with your content a little bit, so you've got to be a bit careful. You kind of need to make that judgment before you start laying out your content. Normally I just stick with 1 column, especially when I'm writing documentation for projects. And then if you really need 2 columns, just use a table and put your content into 2 columns. But you need to, you know, kind of make that decision before you start producing your content. Inside the layout, you've got indentation options here. You've got like a page title. A lot of these things I've not really experimented with them too much, to be fair. So maybe I'll look at these tools, learn them a bit better before I try and explain something that I haven't really experimented with too much. I think page title is probably going to be an important feature, so maybe we'll look at that separately. There is a watermark option here as well. I assume you can like add some text. Let's just write the word test, and it's going to be like silver. So then you have the word test there in the background. If you want a watermark, we can just delete that word test and click OK, and then it will get removed. Hyphenation, let's see what this does. So I think it's just looking at the words and hyphenating them for you, like hyphenate all words. You know, I've never really used that tool, but go and experiment with it, see what it does for you. This is just a select tool, right? So this is just for selecting objects. What is in here? References. I've never really used any of this stuff here, so I'm not going to try and explain something I haven't used before. So maybe you want to go and read up on these things. Remember, LibreOffice comes with a manual. Don't rely on me to tell you every single option inside LibreOffice. Will be here all day. So just go and have a look at the manual. If there's something specific you need or you want to learn, you can find a lot of that in the manual as well. Got this review section here. I think you can even record content or record like some audio speech and add that into your content if there's something that needs to be fixed. Maybe you can record some sort of audio. That's quite interesting. I don't think that's in the last version. Maybe it's something new. You've got the spelling, spell checker here. And you can select the language. So if it's American spelling or UK, that's quite important. So whenever you have typos in here, if you type something wrong, let's just do that tester with 2 R's. We can right click on it, and then we get the options in UK spelling in case it's spelled differently in America. So a typical word, what's an American word that's spelled differently? Let's think color, right? So COLOR. In UK we have a U in there, so when you right click you have color with the U. But if you had American settings in your languages for your spelling, then that color would have been correct, for example. Let's see what else is in here. This is just to view the page in different ways. So you can view it in web format or web view. You can view it in normal view. You can do a print preview. Click here. That's the equivalent of going to the home and the file and clicking print preview here. You can also click print preview here. You can show the format marks as well. You can show or hide white space. I'm not quite sure. Let's have a look. That's like hiding the header white space at the top there. And it's probably doing that towards the bottom somewhere as well. Show white space. Yeah, so it's hiding the header and the footer, right? The header and footer content, this whole header and footer content. We consider that to be white space because it's not really part of the document where you're writing content. So you can hide that and show that. Optimum view, I guess that just zooms into the optimum view so you can see things a bit more clearly. You can set it to 100% optimum view. You can have it full screen. You can close down the full screen. So if you want it large, you can have it full screen. So I'll leave you to go and play around with all these settings and what they do. You can show the ruler or not show the ruler and stuff like that. You can show grid lines and not grid lines. There's lots of different options in here for you to go and play around with. But you should have a good understanding of formatting a document and keeping a consistent document with consistent formats. That was probably the most important part about this tutorial. Got a snap to grid here as well, so that might become useful. Extensions I haven't really experimented with, but I guess you can go to Extension Manager, download some extra extensions. And there's stuff like mail merge in here as well. You can insert fields. I haven't really played around with these options too much. You can even run macros and create macros to like automate stuff. But that's way beyond this tutorial. So let's just do one last thing. Let's save this. Let's close it. Let's open up this folder on my desktop, and we've got our master document here, and we've got a PDF version of it. We can delete that PDF version. Let's just say that I want to now go and create a new document for some business purpose, or I'm going to go and write another report for university or college, some coursework. I can just right click on this. Maybe it'd be wise if you created a folder, right? Create a folder and call it, I'm just going to call this one my new project. So that might be for work or for whatever it might be. You can right click, drag this file into here and copy it here. And then you can open up this folder and you could rename it. So I might call this, let's say the DCP web specification, right, for a project. And I'll name it and I'll give it a date. It would make sense. Normally I'll give it like a date here. It'd be like the 18th or the 10th, 2021. And maybe I'll put a version number like version 1. And now when I open up this document, I can do whatever I want to it. But if the document has structure from day one, we can just change the title here quickly. So it might just be DCP custom web design. Let's say this one's a custom lead generation, right, project. So I don't have to really type a lot in. And today's date is the 18th, so I just change it to the 18th. And this says like, is it built with CMS system or WordPress? I'm just going to say it's just CMS, and I don't have to really write anything, right? It's responsive already. Change that, fix up the bullets, change up the form, just write some more information in, save your document. Remember this page, all this content, when we send it to a client, we'll delete all of that. Or if you're preparing it for, for university or something, you'll delete all of those links and stuff that I put at the bottom there. You wouldn't have that there. Then you can just go ahead and save this, click File, click PDF, save it, and then close this, and now you've got a new document ready to send to your university, ready to send to your clients or to your colleagues at work or whoever it might be. Or it might be a presentation, or it might be something like a wedding invitation. Obviously, it will look a lot more better than this if it was some sort of invitation to a birthday. But that's where you use that font works. I was showing you that font works. You can use that to make your document look a a bit more cheerful, let's say, rather than very sort of corporate-y. Anyway, hopefully this has taught you a lot of hopefully you've gathered a lot of information and a lot of knowledge from this tutorial. It wasn't perfect by any means. We had a few problems along the way, but we managed to resolve them. I haven't been through every single setting inside of LibreOffice Writer. This tutorial will probably be about 6 hours long if I try to do that, and I've still got a lot to learn myself. Alright, I don't know every single button and every single thing that you click on in here what it's going to do. So you need to go and learn some of this yourself, and maybe you can teach me a thing or two. So feel free to do that. That would be nice as well. Maybe I can learn from you guys. So let's go ahead and close this. Let's close down this folder. That's the end of this tutorial for LibreOffice 7 Writer. Hopefully you find it useful. Don't forget to check the links in the YouTube description where I'll give you a beginner's tutorial for LibreOffice 7 Calc as well. And maybe we'll look at some of the other applications. So when we look at LibreOffice, we can see that it has Impress, which is like PowerPoint presentations. You've got Draw, where you can do things like workflow diagrams. We've been through, this is Impress here actually, this is OpenOffice, this one's LibreOffice. We've got Calc, I've already done a tutorial on that, and Writer. So really these are the two main applications you're going to probably use day in and day out, and maybe you want to create a presentation using this one as well. So maybe we'll look at that as a separate tutorial. If you want me to make one, then just write a comment in the YouTube description for LibreOffice Impress, and I'll try and make a tutorial on that software as well for you. Okay, let's go ahead and close this all down. That's the end of this tutorial. I hope you find it useful, and I look forward to seeing you in the next DCP web tutorial.